When Ford first launched the Bronco Sport as a smaller, more road-focused sibling to the full-size Bronco, I can remember the collective cries from Bronco enthusiasts that say Ford was completely tarnishing a legendary nameplate. Well, now the Bronco Sport has become a sales success, and Ford has launched this new retro-themed Heritage Edition to try and cater to some enthusiasts. Has it worked? That's what we're going to find out. Now, first things first, as we get out on the road, it's important to note that the Ford Bronco Sport is a very different vehicle than the Ford Bronco. It's essentially like comparing a Jeep Compass to a Jeep Wrangler. This might have a similar name, but it's not really a similar vehicle. The Bronco Sport actually rides on the same platform as the Ford Escape, but because it has such a boxy, rugged body, you really couldn't tell by looking at it. And that's a good thing from Ford. I really do love the styling, especially the Heritage Edition, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But the powertrains are very different from what you're going to find on the full-size Bronco. The base engine on the Bronco Sport is a 1.5 liter, 3-cylinder turbocharged EcoBoost engine. It produces 181 horsepower and 190 pound-feet of torque. That all goes out through an 8-speed automatic transmission to standard all-wheel drive. Now, believe it or not, because of the nature of my role as a car reviewer, the automakers typically send me the most expensive versions of whatever vehicle I'm reviewing, so I've never actually driven the Bronco Sport with that engine. The only engine I've driven is the one that I have here, a 2-liter, 4-cylinder EcoBoost engine with a turbocharger, produces much healthier numbers, 250 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. Now, it's a bit difficult whether or not to classify the Bronco Sport as a compact vehicle or a subcompact vehicle, but no matter which one of those categories you put it into, 250 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque, those are pretty strong numbers. That means if I go into my little GOAT mode selector down here, yep, that's what they call their drive modes, GOAT modes, goes over any terrain is what it stands for, and put it into sport mode, and then I hit the throttle, woo, there's that torque, woo. Yeah, this little 4-cylinder really picks up some speed. This is not a very huge vehicle. That is a ton of power, and I guarantee you could tune it and get even a lot more power. The 8-speed automatic transmission is pretty darn good. You do have paddle shifters, although I can't imagine people are going to use them. They are very small and very plasticky. So I can't imagine that, but in terms of power, especially in sport mode, it takes like a second for the transmission to go ahead and downshift, but once it does, you got plenty of power in this little guy. Now, unfortunately, the price that you pay for what is admittedly very good acceleration is going to be the fuel economy. Because the Bronco Sport comes with standard all-wheel drive, the fuel economy just isn't great no matter which engine you get. This 2-liter engine is going to only net you 21 in the city, 26 on the highway, and 23 combined, which are pretty bad for a small little crossover like this, even the non-hybrid ones. And the 3-cylinder is only a little bit better. You're going to get 25 in the city, 28 on the highway, and 26 combined. There are so many better options in terms of fuel economy, so you have to kind of like the adventure, outdoorsy, kind of rugged nature of the Bronco Sport. Otherwise, you're probably better off getting something that's a hybrid. And overall, I would say Ford did a really nice job of making this feel, at least from behind the wheel, different from a Ford Escape. The ride is on the firmer side, but it's definitely not uncomfortable. The bumps certainly don't disturb me in any way, shape, or form. It's a little bit noisy on the highway. I would say this is not the most comfortable car if you're doing sort of long distance vacations, but the steering actually has a bit of tightness to it. As I mentioned, the acceleration is quite good. There's not a tremendous amount of body roll. It kind of feels hot hatchy in a way. It's certainly not a hot hatchback, but it's definitely not a dreadful thing to drive. And I think that's all anybody who's looking to buy this car will really want from it. So now that we've discovered how the Bronco Sport drives, let's pull over to take a look at the adorable exterior. Now the one I'm driving is the Bronco Sport Heritage Limited. This is the most expensive version of the Bronco Sport. You can also get the Heritage, so a lot of what you're seeing here, on a lower trim level if you're willing to live with a smaller engine and not quite as many options. Now the Bronco Sport Heritage Edition pays homage to the original 1966 Bronco. You can also get a lot of what you see here on the full-size Bronco. So if you are looking for a vehicle that is much more rugged off-road and has a removable roof, a lot of what you see here is available on the full-size Bronco. Now it all starts with the color choices. Now on the Heritage Limited, there are only three. There is this Robin's Egg Blue. It is this gorgeous, very cutesy baby blue. I happen to love it. I think it looks really nice. You can also get Yellowstone Metallic, and I believe that Peak Blue, which is like a darker blue, is a new color on this Heritage Edition for the 2023 model year. Interestingly, if you don't get the Heritage Limited, if you just get that lower Heritage trim, there are more colors. You can get Shadow Black, Hot Pepper Red, Alto Blue, Carbonized Gray, Cactus Gray, and then you can also get this Robin's Egg Blue. No matter which color you pick, you're going to get a lot of Robin's white accents. So the grille is going to be painted in Robin's white. You also get these bright red letters in the center that say Bronco. I think it's a really cool look. Some commenters on the internet said it might look a little bit better in black. You also get these white 17-inch wheels with Wild Peak all-terrain tires. Those wheels might look like Steely's, but they are actually alloys that are just made to look like Steely's. I think they look super cool. You can get this wheel on the Badlands as well, and possibly some other trims as well, but they will not be painted white as they are here on the Heritage Edition. Moving down the side, we see that we have a two-tone roof. So we have more of that awesome white, which I think looks really cool. I kind of wish that they would have painted the mirror caps in white too, rather than having them be black plastic, but it's fine. It might have been a little bit too much white. You also get a very Heritage retro looking Bronco Sport badge here in very old school Ford font with kind of the older looking Bronco logo. I think that is just a really good look in general. And overall, I would say that the Bronco Sport has always been a really nice looking vehicle, and I think the Heritage Edition is going to get you a lot of looks from people. Now, stepping inside the Bronco Sport, I want you to remember that this Heritage Limited trim that I'm testing is based on the Badlands trim, which is the nicest version of the Bronco Sport available. So you're going to get these brown leather seats. I think they look very cool and very rugged. You also have some kind of retro white and red stitching here. And then it might not come across perfectly well on the camera, but this perforation is done in kind of a plaid design that I think is really cool. I've never really seen leather done with plaid like that. You also get the little Bronco logo embossed here at the top. Now, if you just get the regular Heritage Edition, not the Heritage Edition Limited, you still get plaid seats, but they're going to be made from a blue cloth rather than this brown leather. Now, as we step on in, you're going to see some more premium materials than you'll probably get in lower trim versions of the Bronco Sport. We do have push button start. You're going to get a special splash screen here for the Bronco Sport with some rolling rocks and whatever. All Bronco Sports ship with this very small 8-inch touchscreen that doesn't have wireless Apple CarPlay or wireless Android Auto. Honestly, I'm usually not one to complain about a screen being kind of small, but this just feels really Ford circa 2016, 2017, and it just looks outdated compared to other vehicles in this segment. I really hope Ford is preparing a mid-cycle refresh for this screen sometime soon to get to the newer Ford Sync system with wireless Apple CarPlay and all of that good stuff. Now, this system on lower end models is going to be tied to a 6-speaker audio system, but because we have the Heritage Limited, we have a 10-speaker B&O, that's Bang & Olufsen sound system, that sounds decently good. We also have fairly conventional gauges here. We do have a decently nice helper screen here in the middle. I did complain in the last Bronco Sport that it didn't have a leather steering wheel. It had kind of like a really junky material. This one does have a leather steering wheel, which is thankfully nice. It was a very cheap feeling touch point. Now, a lot of the surfaces in here are going to be hard plastic, but we do have a lot of soft rubberized materials as well, giving it that kind of rugged feel that you could take it off-road and wipe it down very easily. So if you're not into that, this is probably not going to be the crossover for you. We do have lots of little storage nooks. We've got this little cubby up here. We've got our wireless charger down here with storage and our USB ports. We've got cup holders. We've got our armrest here with our little badge for Heritage Edition. So it's letting us know that the Bronco was established in 1966. Here we have our GOAT modes, which I briefly mentioned out on the road. You do have not really a locking differential, but you can lock the four-wheel drive system on. I have actually taken the Bronco Sport off-roading before, and it surprised me with how good it was. So I do really like that. We do also have heated seats here, heated steering wheel as well, no ventilated seats. We do have dual zone automatic climate control. When I put the vehicle into reverse, we are going to have a rear facing camera, obviously, but then if I put it back and I push this camera button, I do have a front facing camera, which is nice for off-roading, but I kind of wish it was a 360-degree camera, because that would really help you, navigate around rocks and such. We do also have a sunroof and a little place to put our sunglasses in. Moving towards the back seat, we can see that the Bronco Sport is a decently practical vehicle. The legroom really isn't that great. This actually has a shorter wheelbase than the Ford Escape, so you're gonna get just under 37 inches of legroom. Sitting behind myself, I really don't have a ton of room back here. We do have air vents though, which is quite nice, USB-Cs and a 110 volt outlet, so there is a lot of good stuff there, honestly, in terms of practicality. We've also got these little zipper bags, so you can go ahead and put some nice stuff in there. Maybe your kids have a phone or a game station or whatever that they want to go ahead and put in there. They also have these little pockets here on each of the seats that can be good for their phones, so you could just put your phone right in there, have the cable charging it up. You also have these little straps if you have one of those little strappy things. I actually have my keys on one. You can go ahead and hang stuff from the back of here. That's quite useful. And then I actually just discovered this today while filming. I forgot about this. There is some hidden storage underneath the passenger rear seat over here. So while the legroom isn't that great, there are a lot of features back here. And because of the tall roof that actually kind of elevates from the front, you can see there's kind of like a bump up here. You do get a ton of headroom. Wrapping up with the cargo area, there's actually something really cool back here that I wanted to show you. This is the cargo management system. It is a $195 option, so not a lot of money here, but I think it's really cool. So basically, in its default setting, it kind of splits the trunk. So if you have objects you kind of want to put up here, maybe you have your kids' dirty cleats or something like that you don't want getting the entire car dirty, you can put them up here. But then you can have stuff lower, kind of dividing you, giving you two planes of shelving, which is actually really cool. And the other fun thing that you can do with the Bronco Sport here is you can push this button that just reads glass, lift up just the glass portion, and now you can have quick access to this shelf because it's basically right there, so you don't have to open up the whole door. That is one really cool way to do it, but it is not the only way. So you can go ahead and unlock this using these two little switches, and then this slides forward. You want to make sure that these arrows are kind of lined up. I'm just going to lock this one side for demonstration purposes. You'd also lock the other side, and now you can actually pull out these little legs here from the bottom, and they kind of sit like so on the bumper, and now you've got a table that you can use for tailgating, which I think is a really cool purpose as well. So that's really nice, honestly. And then that is not the only way to use it as well. There's even more that you can do with it. So let me go ahead and unlock it once more. I can go ahead and tilt it back. This thing actually folds. So now I can have kind of a split with this kind of half table here. We actually have like a ruler here, which is quite nice as well. I can go ahead and remove this all together, and I can go ahead and slide it in like so. I believe I did it upside down. But now you have the trunk divided this way, which is quite cool as well. So I really like this for $195. I don't know why you wouldn't get it. I think it's a really neat option. And if you go ahead and toss down these rear seats. It's gonna open to about 65 cubic feet of space. You can see the seats didn't quite fold all the way because my driver's seat is quite far back, but this is a really decent amount of space for a vehicle of this size. We also have these little hooks here. You've got 4 of them in the trunk. Lots of clever ways to use the space back here. I was talking to you about the tailgate party. You even have a bottle opener that is built into this car. Ford really made sure that the Bronco Sport is made for people who love to party. So that wraps up our time with the 2023 Ford Bronco Sport. Pricing for this vehicle starts at just over $29,000. To step up to the Big Bend, you're looking at just over $31,000. And if you love everything that you just saw in this Heritage Edition, but are willing to live with a little bit fewer features, you can get the regular Heritage Edition for $33,400 based on the Big Bend trim. There's an Outer Banks trim that's gonna cost you $35,600, and the top Badlands Edition is the only way to get the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine is $38 grand. Now you can get this Heritage Limited that I showed you, which is based on that Badlands with the big 4-cylinder engine, but it is going to cost you. This vehicle is $44,655 before options. I think that is a ton of money for what you're getting here. You're missing some features that you can get on comparably priced crossovers of this size, like ventilated seats, heated rear seats, 360-degree camera, a hybrid system. There's just a lot that I personally think is missing from a vehicle that costs nearly $45,000. There are some things to like. It is very good off-road for the segment. It looks absolutely adorable, and it is pretty fun to drive. Let me know in the comments if you think the Ford Bronco Sport Heritage Limited is worth nearly $45,000, or if you would look elsewhere. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. I'll see you next time.